Okay, great. Yep, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. Yeah, I just got notified on my phone. On YouTube? Yeah, nice. Oh, it's starting, yep, yep, nice, cool. Oh, cool, nice. I can see you there. There we go, okay. I've I've muted the Twitch stream, at least so that I'm not getting I'm not getting echo.
Okay, let me double check my settings here because I was muted. My my microphone was muted on stream because I'm awesome, and now I should not be. Okay, you want to talk, Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Okay, so we can hear you. Desktop audio works. That means when we show a YouTube video, that should work as well. Okay, so here we go. Are you ready to do this? This is the
Yeah, let's do
pre-show.
it.
Okay, here we go. Here goes the
Yeah.
Noobs intro, and then we'll get rolling. What a beautiful intro.
Man, yep. Cool.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the Blender Noobs show. the Blender Noob Show. If you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, we were on Facebook for a fraction of a second before we lost the feed. Don't know why. We'll get that fixed someday. But but welcome to the show. It's been a while. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Mike Reese, Blender noob, but I am also the head of kits at Kitbash 3D, as well as just a 3D artist working in the industry. Yeah.
Awesome. And as always, I'm the Checkpoint Professor, a Blender noob as well. Just trying to go one day at a time, learning a little bit more at Blender as we go along. I am a full-time professor at the University of Utah, where I teach game design, a dad, and a little bit of an artist.
Yeah, you know, we do our best every day to keep up the art stuff.
All right. So if you're catching this this live stream or watching this after the fact, hopefully you're here because you're interested in Blender as well. I'm going to share the agenda for today really quick, what we have going on. It's been a few weeks since we've been here, but we want to do an introduction about us starting up, what our plans are for the future, why we've been away from the stream for so long, and then we want to share some Blender news. What are the updates, what's happening in Blender. Then after that, Mike has a project to share. And then we want to talk to anyone in the chat, an open invitation to show some of the Blender projects you've been working on. So to kick it off, Mike, it's been a few months. It's been a hot minute since we.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's been honestly about a year.
It could have been. It's been it probably has been for a full year since we've been out. Lots been happening in our lives, you know, within that year, which, you know, caused us to kind of take a step back to make sure that we could dedicate more time to this. But it's been overall pretty positive, and I think that we're ready to get back to it.
Yeah, Mike. I think you started a new job. I had a new baby born, and I've had some health issues. I actually had some back issues, but. Yeah, we had a new baby. The baby had to have a heart surgery. So kind of a frantic time, but everything is awesome now, as the Legos movie says. And
Yeah.
we're ready to move forward. And I'm ready to get back into doing some more Blender art. I'm actually really excited for it. And as we move into the next segment, I'm really excited to hear what has been going on in Blender. So I'm gonna kick that over to you, Mike.
Nice. Yeah, well, Blender in the year has gone through a ton of updates and a ton of changes. One of the biggest things that, you know, is not quite news now, but has been pretty big is Blender 3.3. And what's really great about that, and if we want to bring up the Blender page, Gabe,
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
Yeah, let me try that down. That's just blender.org, right?
Yeah, I just sent you a link. So the big thing that a lot of people are talking about is Blender 3.3, which is also what actually gets me excited is that it's also the first LTS version of Blender 3.0, or with Blender 3. So huge changes. One of which is sculpting hair, which
Ooh.
freaking amazing. Lots of grooming tools that we can use in sculpt mode. So I'm a big Zbrush user, and it's really great to see more time effort spent in the sculpting area of Blender. I know that a lot of artists are switching over to Blender from Zbrush. This is something that I'm definitely going to be getting more into with sculpting, and having grooming tools, which not only look amazing but are also working in real time. I think is going to be a big game changer. So it's a huge update to Blender 3.3.
That is a game changer. Mike, let me ask you some questions too on that note, just as they pop in my head. But someone I've used a lot of ZBrush in my day, and I know you have as well. And in the past, I know I've never moved over to the Blender sculpting tools because they looked like a kind of a low res version of that, right? So it looked a little bit more not quite as robust. So
Mhm.
are you telling me with these grooming tools previously that people are actually moving from ZBrush to Blender because why?
Well, so a lot of people are moving from ZBrush to Blender because the Blender sculpting tools in general have been leveling up consistently over the last few iterations. One of the things that Blender offers that ZBrush does not is a true 3D camera, which is something that a lot of artists have
Hmm.
been clamoring for. And you can go into perspective mode and change the focal length, but there is a difference between having a true 3D camera. The other thing is Blender's becoming a lot more performant, and so going up to millions of polygons to do those high resolution details, a lot of people are able to get up to that point where they may not need to go any further. Whereas with ZBrush, you still can, you can get up to billions of polygons. But when it comes to that level that people need, getting there with Blender is absolutely possible. I've follow several artists that now have Blender and ZBrush as a part of their workflow in tandem, where they'll go and do the primary and secondary details in Blender and then bring it over to ZBrush for the tertiary details, just to finish it off with like those super high poly, very dense details that Blender is still trying to achieve. Getting up to the tens of millions, hundreds of millions of polygons, and even a billion that you can get in ZBrush. But one of the things that ZBrush eh, does okay is with like hair,
Yeah.
um, where one of the big advantages of being within one software is that you're in one software. There's no switching back and forth. There's no like add-ons that pass things from one to the other. You're just in one software because with being within Blender and sculpting is you can also get access to all the lighting tools and all the great like other modeling tools that Blender provides that ZBrush, it isn't quite built for in a lot of ways. So being able to go right into Eevee or cycles with the sculpt in real time is pretty amazing and removes an additional step and barrier that you would normally have switching between programs. Yeah. Um, yeah.
No, that's
So
awesome. So if someone were just like starting out ZBrush versus Blender, and I know it's just our opinions here. I would love to hear any counter opinions. But would you suggest they just start right with Blender, or should they still stick to ZBrush because that's more the industry standard?
I would, if I were starting again today, I would be going full Blender because one, it's not that it's just free. It's free and it's very, very good. And like I said, you can get the primary and secondary, and you can dive into those tertiary details. You just won't get the fidelity. And there are like other tool sets within ZBrush that are quite good, but at the rate that Blender is progressing, I don't see it's going to be there isn't a reason to go to a subscription service for the sculpting when 90% of it is in Blender and you're sticking with one program and you can do all the other things that Blender provides to get you to that final image, quickly. So, um, if you're just starting out, I would for sure say just stick with Blender. Do it all in Blender.
That's awesome.
Um, if you're an industry veteran who's in ZBrush and who knows ZBrush in and out, I would say give Blender a shot and continue to refine your pipeline. But going into Blender may provide some value.
I love it. I think a good title for this episode would be Blender versus ZBrush.
Yeah, potentially. I know that there have been other artists who are pretty well known, like Outgang Studios, who um, who has done a deep dive into the differences and uh, performance, and has found a lot of the similar things that I have when going between them. And so it's fun for me because I love ZBrush. I've been using it for 15 years now. So it's still my go-to, and I'm still very familiar with it, but it's exciting that because I made the switch to Blender for my main 3D package, going first starting in Maya and then going to Max and now using Blender. It's exciting to be able to do a lot more within Blender and not have to go back and forth between that and ZBrush.
So just this discussion we're having, here's what's popping in my head, Mike, because I'm a Maya user, and we've talked about this before. So I'm so comfortable using Maya it's almost created like a real roadblock when I hop into Blender, because I'm so used to the tools I know and love. And the same thing with like ZBrush. I'm really used to ZBrush as well. But you hyping up the sculpting makes me almost feel like, maybe the sculpting aspect of Blender could be my kind of gateway drug into getting to Blender. So my next question would be, is how difficult are the controls to sculpt? Is it as easy as ZBrush? I know a lot of people just hopping to ZBrush. It's kind of an awkward. It's a different control system than Maya if you're not used to it. But there are a lot of modifiers, etc., in Blender that make Blender, in my opinion, far more technical and less intuitive than, say, Maya. So how is it? How simple are the controls? And maybe this is something that I should test out before our next episode, so I can kind of give my update on it.
Yeah, if you're used to ZBrush, I don't think going to Blender is going to take you but a few hours to get familiar with it, especially because a lot of the tools and the biggest thing, the brushes, are going to be pretty familiar, like the standard brush, a clay brush. There's also like cloth brushes. So it's when you're when you've done a transition to Blender and then you go to sculpting, I think that's going to be even easier. But if you've been in Blender and then you've done a lot of ZBrush and then you're going to sculpting, I think a day or two just working it out, you're going to begin to see like, okay, this is how I would do the sculpting and all that kind of stuff. And plus having access to all the other add-ons and modifiers and stuff like that, you're going to be able to make it something that is completely intuitive to you, I think, pretty quickly.
All right, I'm sold. That's awesome. One of the things I loved about ZBrush is doing lunch crunches, or it's something that you can just hop in and you've just got this lump of clay that you can push and pull. And for me, it's very therapeutic and easy, and it's something in an hour you can make something that's really fun. That's what I always loved about those short stints. So that we have just made my next goal before the next Blender Noobs is just to get familiar with the sculpting tools and have some fun with it and talk about it for the next show.
I think that'd be great. And there's plenty of like, here's how to get into sculpting really quickly within Blender. And then I think if you're any artist wanting to get into sculpting, you limit yourself to like 3 brushes and just go at it, right? Just to see what you can do. Yeah. Move, standard, and clay, and then smooth.
Yeah, and it's the same. It's the same thing for. I think it's the same thing for 3D modeling or sculpting. There are only like 3 brushes or 3 tools that you will use 80-90% of the time, and all the extra ones are just to refine that model and do some extra stuff.
Yes.
So awesome. Okay, let's move on though. Anything else in Blender news?
Yeah, so Blender 3.3 is out. Definitely grab that. It's the LTS version. I know that I'm going to stick around with that for a while, which is really cool. The other thing that's I guess is not really Blender news, but is fun news is so Seagraph was a few months ago. It was back in August. And I got the opportunity to go to Seagraph, and that was in Vancouver, BC, which is, Vancouver, BC, which was amazing. And one of the things that happened to me is I actually got to meet the founder and CEO of Blender,
awesome.
Ton. And so that was a big joy for me, and then the people that I went with who are also Blender enthusiasts.
Ton, if you're out there watching, how's it going? Good to thanks for
Yeah,
tuning in to the Blender News Show.
absolutely. He's a huge fan. I'm sure he doesn't even know, but it was an amazing experience. Super kind. And then the other person I met was Andy, who's the art director at Blender Studio. So it was really cool talking to them about their tools, what's coming up, like, and them just showing the short film that was created with Blender and all the new tool sets. So shout out to Ton and Andy for just being amazing people at Seagraph, which was, pretty bananas overall. Lots of new technology. Big takeaways there was, like USD is definitely going to be um, a big thing for studios. I think in the near future, the new USD format. Um, and yeah, there's just a lot of exciting films, TV, and technology. Lots of VR uh, was there. Lots of haptic feedback, gloves, and ways to um, manipulate a 3D space that also uh, like affects physical space, um, virtual production. These are all things that were definitely featured at Seagraph to yeah, as well as just a lot of things. And then one of the cool things that happened too is I got a chance to do a hands-on with geometry nodes. That was a big feature at the labs there. As you can see, what you're showing here is procedural UV unwrapping with geometry nodes, which is super cool. And so, definitely that's, doing things procedurally, trying to eliminate tedium within the art process so that you're doing things you're focusing more on the art. I feel like is where a lot of the tool sets are going.
Right. Anywhere where you can slow down, I mean, speed up some of the process that you do redundantly. That's not creative, right? Like a lot of people, I actually enjoy UV unwrapping, but a lot of people don't. It's time consuming and it's a big process.
Yeah.
That's outside of the fun part, which is making the textures and the models, etc.
Yeah, I mean, UVs are a means to an end, right? You do UVs and you do them well because of if you do them well, you get a fantastic bake, you get a fantastic time in your sculpting, or not sculpting, but your texturing software, whether it's Blender or Substance Painter or what have you. So being able to do those quickly gets you to what really is the fun part, and that's that next phase of creativity.
That's awesome. Yeah, it looks like they
So
have the geometry nodes have landed for pathfinding across mesh edges. That sounds interesting. I don't know what
yeah,
that
um, I still need to do
is.
a deep dive into geometry nodes, but I know that they're becoming a big part of, Houdini is a monstrous software that has a high gate for learning.
Yeah.
And I know that people, which is also node based, and procedural modeling is becoming a humongous thing. And doing procedural visual effects is something that is needed in the like in a within our industry. And so geometry nodes coming in and providing a lot of that
Yeah.
ability is going to be huge. And it was funny because during the geometry nodes demo hands-on that we were getting, I saw a person in front of me doing the same thing in Houdini, which was kind of hilarious because that just shows you it's like, oh, you can do this thing in Houdini, but it goes both ways. Oh, you can do that thing in
Yeah.
Blender.
Yeah, so a lot of Blender, what this immediately comes to mind, because we talk about the sculpting tools that are not quite up to par to ZBrush, but they're getting close. And this geometry node sounds very much like Houdini, but maybe it's not as powerful, right? So in many ways, Blender is, it's a 3D modeling program, very strong, but it's got essentially kind of the poor man's version of Houdini, poor man's version of sculpting, but it's all getting so close that I think that they're building off of what is successful about these other products. It honestly gets me excited because it's an all-in-one package that you can still hit those marks if you can figure it out.
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
Awesome.
so that's like the big news there, and then some other news that you're kind of going through here is that we got Grease Pencil, which I still encourage you to dive into, Gabe. I
Try
think
out.
this would be super fun for you. Um, the Intel Arc GPUs are out, and so there's some support for those, and some more AMD GPU support further down that you're once you scroll to it,
Oh,
as well
just
as
one sec.
um, some other great features that are coming out or that are out with 3.3.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. It sounds pretty amazing. A lot of new news. One of the exciting parts about that I look forward to with us chatting together about this stuff is getting up to date on what's
Mhm.
going on and getting excited to push forward this next week and learning more about Blender, but also the amount of technology that they're in. Like they're moving really fast. I mean, there is
Yeah,
so much coming into Blender all the time. It's crazy.
absolutely. And it's it's been kind of crazy to see how fast it's improving and growing, as well as how it's working its way into a lot of people's studios. There are some studios now that are creating free versions of their software so that they can compete. Um, I know that there's now a free version of Maya, just because they've had to compete with what Blender can offer in terms of the
Is there a free
price.
version now?
Yep, there's a
Oh,
free version of Maya.
interesting.
Uh, believe I saw. Yeah, there's a like a core version of Maya that they're
Okay.
now giving out for
It's
free.
like a Maya Lite, Maya Core. So if you want like rendering and extra bells and whistles, you have to pay for it.
Of course, how would Autodesk make its money? But
Yep.
yeah, I remember seeing that Maya came out with a free version.
Yeah.
Some version, but like there's lots going on when
Yeah,
it
no,
comes to
that's
that.
awesome. That's amazing. That's amazing. So Mike, that is the news. I think there's a lot going on. I look forward to these news segments as we go on. Anyone watching, thanks for tuning in. Um, I think the next segment, though, I think we want to check out some of the projects that we've been working on.
Cool. Yeah, there's I've been working on yeah, that sounds good. It's the projects segment of our Blender Noobs show, and then if there's anyone that wants to chat, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, open call. I know we were going to mention this at the end, but might as well mention it now. If you're watching, and in the future, if you want to check one of our episodes and show off some of your projects live, you can share either a file or some screenshots of what you've been working on. Screenshots would probably be easier. You can follow us on, Twitch, YouTube. We're on Facebook, all of those to share some of the projects you've been working on. We'd love to chat with you about what you like about Blender, what you've been working on. But this is what Mike's been working on right here, and I'm gonna remove my self visually so you can talk about it.
Nice. Yeah, so this is just a character I have started. It's a part of a bigger scene that I'm creating. This is a diver character. You can see this is his block in helmet. Here's the character inside here just to get the scale and proportions right. This kind of came from a another smaller project I did where I was sculpting some underwater animals. I did a shark and an octopus, and I'm creating this underwater um, scene where it has like an old school diver, but with some exaggerations. I'm a huge fan of BioShock and the Big Daddies and that that flavor. And so I'm making my own version of a deep sea diver that's trying to find something, and he has some resistance when it comes to finding that special something deep underwater. So it's a huge project. This is, I've been doing sculpting in ZBrush, bringing it into Blender, doing hard surface in Blender, and this is still just the very beginnings of this character. And so I need to work out the actual helmet and tanks and all that kind of stuff that I'm doing here. But one of the cool things about working in Blender is that instead of just working in ZBrush, is I have access to all the amazing add-ons and stuff that I've been testing out with Blender. If I wanted to make quick tubes, one of the my favorite add-ons that I've been using is called the the RAN tools. These are paid, but they're super worth it, and so you're able to very quickly create um, like an edge, create a curve from an edge to make tubes pretty fast. One of the cool things about the RAN tools as well is if for some reason I had, um, and let's just do this. If we had um, some cables I wanted to create, I could say, oh, there's a cable that goes from here to here, and then a cable is created. Um, and then I could change the radius. I could change the tension. I can change the resolution. I can see if it's
That is really
yeah.
cool.
So like here's like super low res. So let's say I liked that. Then I could say, oh, I actually want to simulate it. Um, you know, working there, but you can simulate wires pretty quickly to then, fall uh, down. Let me see if I can't. Oh, that's that. Oh shit. Just do a couple of cubes real quick. It could be because of.
I think it's because you're live. That's what happens.
Oh yeah. Um, oh, I get it. Why? It's because I know why. Because this is something that's interesting. Going from ZBrush to see, this is perfect. So let me just delete these and kind of go back to what to no, and then here's reference. So this is also one of the reasons why it's good to stick with one program is because going from ZBrush to Blender, there's actually a big difference in scaling. And so in order for me to go back and forth properly between ZBrush and Blender, um, I have to have things scaled down really low so then when I go back and forth, it they perfectly are in sync with each other, right? The other thing that's a big challenge is that, this is technically in Blender, it's upside down. So when I was simulating gravity, it was going up, or at least it felt like it was going up. So that's also one of the reasons why it's good to be able to stick with one program because everything is gonna be so much, um, more obvious, and you won't have to deal with that going between 2 programs that have different ways of doing things, like what is Z positive and Z negative and all that kind of stuff.
Have you considered just sticking with Blender, or what's the reason? Like, I know we just talked about like the sculpting tools. Is there a reason not for just going all hog and blendering it up?
I think the reason for me right now is I'm in the I'm not transitioning, but I'm going to be doing more overall sculpting within Blender as means to start my transition for, like, easy things, like, folds and maybe some, like, simple sculpting stuff. But I think the reason, right now I'm still completely in ZBrush is because I'm still very much used to it, and I'm trying to be efficient with the project, but I'm also trying to learn a bunch of stuff with Blender, so I'm kinda taking my time to go back and forth and to, like, work things out. So, like, for example, the helmet, I'm gonna do a lot of that just within I'm gonna do a ton of that within Blender with, like, booleans and getting that figured out, and then I'll probably bring it back into ZBrush to maybe do some other things, or maybe not. I'm just it's kinda of a work in progress right now, and it's one of those things that I do wanna make that full transition, or at least a transition enough to where I'm very comfortable in both. Um, yeah, but I'm definitely gonna be bringing in my other characters to then rig this, pose, and do the full scene within Blender. The yeah.
I love it. It's looking fantastic, Mike. I'm excited to see how it goes forward.
Thanks. Yeah, this one's just kinda starting out still, in terms of, just working out all the major shapes. I brought in, you know, I did like the laces in Blender. Now I need to make some adjustments, but it's looking a lot of fun, and I look forward to kind of getting this decked out and clean, or not clean, but like sculpted and super detailed, along with my other creatures, and then like the rest of the scene. I'm probably going to do like the rest of the scene with sculpting within Blender, which I think would be really good. So get everything set up and then do the rest of the set dressing and assets within Blender, and I can show more of that um, over the next many weeks of
I love it.
doing projects.
Well, this will be fun to watch it progress and continue to chat about the process and Blender. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and it's always fun going into Blender and learning new tools. My team at work, there's several people that use Blender, so we're always trying to figure out new add-ons and tool sets to make our work easier and faster. And one of them is just when it comes to doing 3D art, you want to be doing art as much as possible, and so creating your own workspace and ecosystem for doing work is super important. And so one of the add-ons that's paid for, but that's been super helpful is the pie menu editor, where you're able to create any kind of pie menu that you want and put any kind of output or like thing that you want so that you can do things quickly. Like for me, doing Shift A, you can make all you can get your meshes and your lights and all that kind of stuff. But what I created was a quick create pie menu where I have all the quick things that I make quite a bit. Like, okay, I can do a plane really quickly if I wanted to, or a UV sphere, or a cube. And so now, instead of me going Shift A and then going to mesh and going to plane,
Oh, that's awesome.
I have a quick create of like the most common things that I make.
Yeah, I can see how
Camera,
that would be
cube,
super.
yeah.
See, and then like my what I always do is I I create one of those so I can just quickly duplicate it. But
Yeah.
actually having just a one-click kind of anything that can speed or reduce the amount of clicks really speeds up your process.
Absolutely. And one of the Blender does that in spades where it gives you all these add-ons, not only built in, but things that people create to speed up workflows. One of the things that I think people can happen to them is like add-on fatigue, where there's so many things that people can do and utilize that forget to um they forget to kind of master or at least incorporate these new tools into their workflow so it actually becomes more efficient, right? So like you can get rand tools, or you can get bag of pie, or um like all of these amazing tools. One of the things that I recommend people doing is making sure that they incorporate them into their workflow so it actually speeds it up and not just something that they've gotten and never use Um, so whenever you get a new add-on, make sure one that it's going to speed up your workflow, and then two, try to incorporate it like into your workflow so that it's intuitive.
Yeah, it becomes kind of pointless if you add an add-on and
Yep.
you don't use it, it will just be lost. You won't know
Yes.
where to find it next time. You've never used it, and it becomes pointless.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's a lot of add-ons that can do that because there is a ton of amazing add-ons that do speed up your workflow. But when you get a new one, have a little project where you incorporate it because you're going to need to, you know, make it to where it's a like with the RAN tools, it's like Alt Q, Shift Q. It brings up all of these. With Bagapie, it's J. Like what what of these are useful, and make sure that you put them into the hotkeys that make it to where it's intuitive for you in your workspace.
Awesome. So much to unpack. It's fantastic.
Agree. But that's where I'm at with these projects. I got lots and lots to do, and I'll definitely keep the audiences updated as that's completed and going.
I love it. Yeah, so next episode, I plan on jumping into a little bit of the sculpting. I would love to talk about just getting into sculpting, so that's what you can plan on in a couple weeks. And
Cool.
then Mike will share the amazing updates on his underwater dude. I'm excited about that. But before we end the episode, Mike, you had a YouTube video you wanted to share. Was that?
Yeah, sure. We can share that. One of the things that's super exciting is, like I said before, um, I am. Do you want me to drop this in the chat? What would
Actually,
be
I've got
best,
it.
Gabe?
I've got it. Is it the teaser?
Yeah.
So I've got it
Um,
ready to go. If tell me when to hit play.
Whenever you want to, just yeah, go ahead and hit play. So yeah, go ahead and hit play. I'll talk about it real quick.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of the things that I think every artist should be doing, especially up and coming artists,
In true
is
boys fashion.
Oh no,
challenging
sorry.
them.
Stop,
the
stop,
right choice,
stop.
You get rewarded, and he made.
Well, that was weird. That was awkward. Here we go. We'll get rid of that. There we go, Mike.
No worries, no worries. That happens to every streamer. We'll just cut that out in post.
Yep.
When it comes to. But one of the things that I think every artist should do is challenge themselves and be a part of a community. And one of the many ways to do that is to get involved in art challenges. And so, like I said at the top of the show, I personally work at Kitbash 3D. It's one of the most amazing places that I've ever had a chance to work, and we're putting on a big art challenge, as you see by the teaser. So tune in on October 11th to get the full scope of that. But definitely encourage anyone who wants to up their game to learn more about Blender and 3D software, and just trying to be a part of a bigger community to tune into that and to hopefully participate.
Yeah, October 11th, 2022.
October 11th. That's next Tuesday.
The universe will expand to unfathomable proportions. That sounds
A lot of cool stuff.
That sounds big. I'm excited. I look forward to an update on that. Yeah, definitely challenges are. That's kind of like how artists progress. Either they're challenging themselves or joining community challenges as a way to push their art further. And I think this, Mike, this is one of the things I talk to students a lot about, because there is so much education out there that's just free for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
So students and people always say, why should I go to school? Why should I take a class? Why should I take this course? And my simple answer to that is because it creates deadlines.
Yeah.
It creates an objective and a deadline. And that's the thing with these challenges. You notice every challenge you level C, They're powerful because they create an objective, a theme, and a deadline, and something for you to complete.
Hmm.
As human beings, at least for most of us, if we don't have a deadline or something to complete, we don't get it done. And so I'm excited to see this challenge as a challenge and what it has to offer.
Absolutely, and I agree with you, and I feel like it's one of those things where if you want to level up and you want to be serious about it and you want to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, then these challenges are a great way because you're able to collaborate and communicate with other people doing this same type of challenge and see what other people are doing and be inspired by that.
Yep. And it's a way to, a lot of people get hired from challenges
100%.
because it's an opportunity to stretch yourself further than you have had before, and people recognize that, and they want a team member who can do that kind of stuff. So this is I'm excited. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, so am I.
All right.
It's been a long time coming.
So Mike, how do you think our first episode has gone after a hiatus?
I think it went great. I think we were able to reiterate all the things not reiterate, but like reestablish kind of like what we're going to be doing and projects that we're working on and just exciting things going on with our lives and with Blender and the 3D universe around us.
I could not agree more. So this is going to be a continual refining process, just like sculpting and modeling. You start with a little bit of a rough shape and you slowly polish it down until it's something amazing. And I see that with the Blender's Noob Show. If you're watching now, consider following us on one of our platforms. Share your projects. We want to check them out. We want to celebrate your accomplishments as well. And we look forward to future episodes. I think the plan, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, every couple weeks.
Yeah, every couple weeks will be our regular cadence, and we'll make those announcements once they're scheduled and set in stone.
Yeah, my plan going forward is to give more advance notice of when we're going live, to make sure that the community is involved and we have those who want to be here. So
100%.
All right, everybody, we will check you next time. Have a fantastic Blender time. We need a catchphrase. keep on blendering on.
Blend it up. You know what, guys? Just do amazing things. Create art and share with the world.
I like blend it up.
Blend it up.
Blend it up.
Sounds good.
There we go.